Welcome back. All right, so we're going to talk about the Colorado Avalanche and where they're at the All-Star break. They're in pretty good shape, and we wouldn't have been saying that a few weeks ago. It has been a very up and down season. There have been a lot of injuries that have dramatically affected the Colorado Avalanche on the ice, and they've come through it pretty well so far. They're not done with the injuries yet. Landeskog's not back yet. Byram's not back yet. There's others. Nichushkin, of course, been in and out of the lineup the last month, and so once they get healthy, providing that takes place, because that's the thing. We always say once they're healthy, but that doesn't always work out that way. Sometimes teams don't really get all that healthy. So for Colorado, I'm hoping they do. Their 27-18-3 record is solid considering how they've come through these injuries thus far. The power rankings really show just how all over the place their season's been. The highest they've been rated is second overall. The lowest they've been rated is 23rd. So that is a dramatic shift up and down that board. They're currently 12th. They've moved up from 23rd over the last couple of weeks. I think it was only 2 weeks ago they were 23rd. 2 or 3 weeks. But at any rate, they're playing much better. And when everything clicks for them, it is impressive to watch. They're a very good team, very well coached, very solid in every area of the game. It's just been a matter of the injuries. Their current playoff odds are listed at 69.3%. I think that's solid. I think that's probably pretty accurate. I don't see any reason, though, why they won't make the playoffs. I think the odds are probably kind of low considering the likelihood they make it. I think they'll make it. But when we talk about the playoff odds, this is they simulate it, like this is from Money Puck. They simulate it, and it's telling you out of 1,000 simulations, 69.3% of the time they make the playoffs. So that's the playoff odds. That's why people get confused when I say 100% for a team or near 100%. And they're like, there's no way. They're not going to, there's no 100% until they've actually qualified. They're saying computer simulations, 1,000 out of 1,000, they made it. So through 10 games, things were kind of slow, but they were slow to start last year too. They're 5-4-1 after their first 10 this year, 12-7-1 after 20 games, 17-11-2 after 30 games, 20-17-3 after 40 games. So this is where things got kind of dark, where they went 3-6-1 between game 30 and game 40. A lot of injuries, definitely explaining that, but it was still a pretty rough time. Since then, they've been 7-1 to end up 27-18-3, and they look like the defending champs. They do. They've looked like the defending champs for the last little while. That's the status they have, and nobody else on the board can have. The closest you're going to get is Tampa Bay, who would be dynasty hopefuls, because if they can win 3 cups in 4 years, they'd be an official dynasty. Notice I'm saying official. The official term for dynasty doesn't change. I know people want it to, but it doesn't. The MVP for the Avalanche, I think, is Rantanen. You can make an argument for McKinnon. You could make an argument for Makar. But I think it's Rantanen's goal scoring that has really kept this team afloat during the darkest of times this season. He's at 34 goals to go with 27 assists for 61 points. He's had a fantastic season, easily his best season. And so for Rantanen, I think he's going to get the odd heart vote here and there if things keep up this way. Because especially in the event that Colorado does end up first or second in the division, I think Rantanen's going to get some consideration for the Hart. He won't get it because this is a world with Connor McDavid in it, and odds are it's probably his award. But yeah, Rantanen should at least get some consideration. McKinnon, 13 goals, 41 assists, 54 points. He's been very good when he's been in the lineup. Makar's been excellent, 13 goals, 32 assists, 45 points. I think if I was starting a team from scratch and I could have any defenseman on my team, I would pick Makar. I know that others might pick Fox, they might pick Hedman, they might pick Carlson. There are others, there's McAvoy. Really, when you get into defensemen, there's quite a few that people might think belongs as that number one pick, but for me, it's Makar. Even when he had slow by his standards numbers at certain points this year, I still said, nah, Makar's the best. So lately, the goals have been coming for him as well, and yeah, I think he probably ends up winning back-to-back Norrises, but we'll see. Then you got Lehkonen, 15 goals, 19 assists, 34 points. He's been excellent since coming over from Montreal. Compher, 10 goals, 20 assists, 30 points for him overall. Compher, playing well. I don't know that he has solidified that number 2 center spot. There's still, Rodriguez is sometimes in there. I think they want a number 2 center. I think the idea that Horvat would fit there makes complete and total sense. But it's a matter of whether or not they'd want to pay the price that Vancouver would ask for Horvat, and if they could make that work long term, or if it'd just be a pure rental, right? Can you sign Horvat and keep that whole team together? And then what happens when Landeskog comes back too, and how does that change the lineup? So their tandem, Georgiev and Francouz, if we were going to pick a spot that we might say, I don't know about this. Before the season had started, it would have been the goaltending. Georgiev had never been a starter. Francouz, never a starter himself either. So it was a matter of which guy's going to emerge as a starter. And the answer's been Georgiev, which has been great because I've been a fan of his for years. And it's nice to see him getting a chance as a starter and excelling at it. There are still those expecting him to fall off sometime in the second half of the season. I don't think so. I think he's a very good worker. I think that he's got good positioning, and I think he's playing really well. So if something happens with Georgiev, Francouz has shown he's capable of keeping the net pretty tidy as well. But remember last year with Kemper, he had a great year. But in the playoffs, I think he was okay, not necessarily great, but he didn't have to be great. Colorado was out there and doing what they had to do to win a Stanley Cup. So we'll see if the goaltending isn't necessarily a huge consideration for that same reason. Maybe they won't need a goaltender to be spectacular, just need him to be good. And I think both Georgiev and Francouz have shown they can be good. Your pending UFAs for Colorado, it's quite a list. It's Compher, Rodriguez. I would think both of them would want to return to Colorado. And one thing that's an advantage for them is because there's that championship from last year, it's easier to convince guys to stick around and stick around for a little bit less money than it is if you're on a rebuilding team or a team that keeps falling apart in the playoffs. Cogliano, expiring contract for him. He's been great. I think Cogliano's been really good for them. Helm's been decent since his return, but I think this might be the end of the road for Helm. This might be his last year. Nieto, brought over from San Jose, hits the empty net. I think Nieto's played well. In San Jose, he was playing well, and I think he'll be a good fit back in Colorado. He already knows Colorado. Bednar knows him. He knows Bednar. It shouldn't be a problem. You shouldn't have that issue that we often see, which is that period of time where a guy's getting adjusted to a new situation. Eric Johnson, an expiring contract for him. Maybe this is his last year in England. Another player who's come up and played for them and played relatively well. And they have that. They have guys who can come up and play well when needed. So I really like the depth. I really think this team is capable. Before the season started, I said they would win the Stanley Cup again. That's a prediction that if I changed it from week to week, may have very well have changed from Colorado, especially when it looked like, maybe they're not even going to make the playoffs. But this is why I don't change my predictions during the season. I leave them as is, and I update them when we get to playoff time. But I wouldn't be surprised if Colorado is still the team I'm picking to win the Stanley Cup this year. I think they've got, I'm not going to say unfinished business, but I think with all the injuries, I think they're going to be fired up when everybody comes back. And I think there's going to be an energy increase for them. And if that happens at the right time, it could be very dangerous. But let me know your thoughts in the comments section below, as always. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through, you just happened upon this video. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.